We're going to read this scripture that all of us brothers and sisters are familiar with. And it's found at Psalms chapter 83 and verse 3 and 4. I already have it turned there, and I'm going to read this here. Notice what this says here. This is how I'm going to start this out so y'all can understand where I'm going here. Well, I'm going to start at verse 2, 3, and 4. And there it says, verse 2, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Now, we're all familiar with that scripture. We're all familiar with that. We heard it before, we read it before, many times. Now, what that involves is this. It involves doing any and everything possible to wipe us out. And these nations, our enemies, they have gotten together and they have came up with a crafty idea. And this crafty idea, or this crafty counsel, is what I will call an agenda. That's what it is. And you're all familiar with that. They have implemented an agenda from day one to basically destroy us, to wipe us out, or maybe even to white us out. Okay? Now, within these agendas, you have tactics. These tactics they use to aid in the agenda. And how do they do it? They push the tactic. They push it out there in the world. They push it. See, and how they do that is by means of the media. We all know, if you say that you're a conscious individual or you are awakened, you should know this. Everything I'm about to say, you should know this. Everything that we see on the television, as far as the movies, the TV shows, even the TV commercials, everything we see, books, magazines, billboards, whatever, they put it there for a reason. Everything's for a reason. So now what we see on the television and in the world today is they're pushing this interracial relationship agenda. It's a tactic that they're using to wipe us out, to white us out. And see, what they're doing really is this. They're taking advantage of the fact that the black men and the black women, our relationships are at an all-time low. While we're pushing the agenda of staying away from each other, don't trust each other anymore, no love anymore, whatever, they're pushing interracial relationships. And they're pushing homosexuality. They're pushing this. See, so inadvertently what we're doing is we're aiding them. We're aiding the agenda to destroy us back because we don't love each other no more like we used to. Relationships are just about almost dead. You see it every day. But let me just stick with this. The agenda that we see in the world. How do we know that these agendas actually work? Let me just give y'all this example here. And I hope I'm not taking too long because I got to watch this time on this. Do y'all remember a few years ago? I think it was around the time, like either before Obama became president or during the time when he was campaigning. Can't quite remember, but there was a pushing in the world, in this particular country, of having homosexual Boy Scout leaders in the Boy Scouts. You remember that? Remember when that was going on? Yeah. And the whole country was in an uproar. Nobody was for that. Oh, no. They was like, no. They ain't want nothing to do with that. So what they did with this, the ones who was pushing this, the elite ones out here, they backed away from it. But they still had it. It still was on the plate, on the agenda's plate. It still was there. They backed away, but they still had plans for that. So what they did, they backed away, and as time went on, you see all of a sudden you start seeing these TV commercials and movies and TV shows and stuff, homosexual relationships, and trying to make it. I mean, you saw an increase in it, making it like it's normal. Then when Obama became president, they passed a law where homosexual marriage has become legal throughout the whole country, and the whole world went into this whirlwind of rainbow parades all over the place, rainbow parades everywhere. And over there somewhere in Europe, over there, they was having one of their little gay pride parades, and there was a little young boy, little white boy. I don't know if some of you may have seen this video. He had no shirt on. He had on no socks. He had on no shoes. All he had on was little bitty little shorts on. You know, the kind of shorts they call hoochie mama shorts. This little boy, he had to be no more than 7 or 8 years old. I don't even think he was 9, if he was 9. But he definitely wasn't 10. But this little boy out there shaking his little body, gay pride parade, he's shaking his little body and stuff in some kind of provocative type way. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, look at this agenda. I can see the agenda. And there he was dancing, shaking about, right there with all these grown men all around him, and they're enjoying the sight of this young boy. Not too long after that, after the gay pride parades and stuff died down, what did the elite ones do? They went right back to the Boy Scouts. And guess what the country did? They accepted it. Hook, line, and sinker. See, that's how the agenda works. They get into your mind. They keep pushing that propaganda in your head, showing you this and showing you that, and pushing it till you become desensitized of it. But then it becomes the norm for you, and then you accept it. That's the agenda. That's the tactics that they use. That's what they're doing now. They're pushing this interracial type stuff going on. That's what they're doing. They're pushing it. And their aim is against us. We cannot allow this to happen. Now, let's read this other scripture here, because I got to keep moving on. Deuteronomy chapter 7. Deuteronomy chapter number 7. Let me get there. This is the reason why we got to be careful. We, as God's people, us Hebrews, we have to be careful. This is the reason why. Deuteronomy chapter 7, and we're going to read verses, I have wrote down verses 3 and 6. Notice what it says here. Well, first we're going to read verse 6 first. Notice what it says. Talking about his people, us. For thou art an holy people unto Yahweh thy Elohim. Yahweh thy Elohim has chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Let me read that again. Right there it says, Yahweh thy Elohim hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. our God, the Most High, has chosen us as his special people above everybody else on the planet. All other people, all other races, you need to understand that all other races of people. I wanted to make that clear. All other races of people. Look over at verse 3. And it tells us this. Because we are a chosen people, a special possession, a special property of the Most High God. Verse 3 says this. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. Period. Because we are a special people. We are to be set apart. Set apart from these people. We are not to be mixing our seed with them. No marriage alliances. No relationships. No dating. No sex with them. None. Period. That's the thing. But the world is pushing us to do that. The world is pushing. That's the agenda. That's the tactic. To push, to get into our heads, to cause us to go and do just the opposite. And then, like I mentioned, we have the problem within our own relationships. Black brothers and black sisters, our relationships are suffering. The love ain't there no more. The trust ain't there no more. So we're pushing that negative agenda on ourselves. And then the world is pushing homosexuality. And it's pushing interracial relationships. And by us not working on our relationships, we're helping them. We're helping them wipe us out and to white us out. Now I'm going to continue on. Let's take a look at this other scripture here. Joshua chapter 23. Joshua chapter 23. Now let's take a look at this. Let's take a good look. Joshua chapter 23. And we're going to start at verse 11. And notice what it says. It warns us about getting involved with interracial relationships. Look at verse 11 of Joshua chapter 23. It says, take good heed therefore unto yourselves, that ye love Yahweh your Elohim. Else if ye do in any wise go back and cleave unto the remnant of these nations, even these that remain among you, and shall make marriages with them, and go in unto them, and they to you. Verse 13, notice this here. This is very important. Verse 13, know for a certainty, it says, know for a certainty that Yahweh your Elohim will no more drive out any of these nations from before you, but they shall be snares and traps unto you, and scourges in your sides, and thorns in your eyes, until ye perish from off this good land which Yahweh your Elohim hath given you. Now, here's the thing. It mentions, if we were to have marriage alliances with these people, that they would prove to be a thorn and snares and traps for us. How is that so? What is a trap? Can you imagine, let's say a bear is walking through the woods and his foot get caught in the trap. The trap is meant to capture him, to have him killed. Yeah. So you see, how many times have we heard stories about some young black brother that been dating some white woman, and next thing you know, he's found hung somewhere, dead somewhere, lynched. See, dating this particular person was a trap for him. He got caught up in a trap, and next thing you know, his life is gone. And guess what? Every time that happens, what happens to the woman? She just some kind of way disappears. Have y'all noticed that? Every time a young black man who's dating some white woman, if he's found dead, we don't hear nothing from the white girl. She's just gone. Remember that young brother who was dating that older white woman? They found him hanging on a playground, a swing set. There was no conversation from her. She just disappeared. She didn't show up nowhere. No media coverage, no kind of statement or nothing. Gone, just gone. He just did, oh well, he's dead and she's gone. Gone. In other words, hey, she was the bait worked, oh well, my job is done. She's gone. See? And then as a result of that, our people are dying, not just the men, but the women. We've heard stories about some of our black sisters done got with this white guy. Like this one story, I saw the video. The white guy, he married this black sister, and he's up there confessing because he done turned himself in and because he done killed this girl. He said, for some reason, he don't understand it. This is what he said. My mind just snapped. I don't know what happened. It just snapped. That's because that's their mindset. They just snap. You don't know what caused it. He just snapped. They ain't quite. We ain't got no business with these people. Now that sister's gone, and we hear story after story after story of these things happening. It's just like the scripture says. They are proven to be snares and traps to us if we continue to marry them, having relationships and dating and sex and all that stuff. But yet and still, we still have further reason. Now this is a very serious one. Now I'm about ready to ruffle some feathers now. I have to keep watch because if this cut off, it's going to be a part 2. We have further reason not to be marrying these people. Not to be marrying them. Further reason. I'm about to ruffle some feathers here. And what I'm going to have to do, though, I'm going to have to use this other scripture here. This book has some books of the Bible that were taken out by the Catholic Church so they can hide some things, keep people from knowing what's really going on. But we're going to take a look in this particular book, one of the books that was taken out of the Bible. We're going to look in Jubilees. Now, some of you may not have this book, but I'm going to read it anyway. I'm going to read it so y'all understand. Several scriptures here. This is in Jubilees chapter 30. And I'm going to start at verse 7. I'm going to start at verse 7, and I'm going to read all the way into verse 15. Now, I just want y'all to hear me out, because I'm going to explain some things after this. Going to ruffle some feathers, but hey, I don't care. This has to be said. Notice what it says here. This is Jubilees, the book of Jubilees, chapter 30. In verse number 7. This is what it says. And if there is any man who wishes in Israel to give his daughter or his sister to any man who is of the seed of the Gentiles, he shall surely die, and they shall stone him with stones, for he has wrought shame in Israel. And they shall burn the woman with fire, because she has dishonored the name of the house of her father. And she shall be rooted out of Israel. For what? Because she's done laid down with a Gentile, someone other than a Hebrew. Verse 8. And let not an adulteress and no uncleanness be found in Israel throughout all the days of the generations of the earth. And let me say that again. Let me read it again. And let not an adulteress and no uncleanness be found in Israel throughout all the days of the generations of the earth. As long as this earth is here, these laws still apply. For Israel is holy unto the Lord. And every man who has defiled it shall surely die. They shall stone him with stones, for thus has it been ordained and written in the heavenly tables regarding all the seed of Israel. He who defileth it shall surely die, and he shall be stoned with stone. It used the word defile. If you get involved with if you marry a foreign person, you have become unclean. You have become defiled. That's what the scripture says. That's what it says. He who defileth it shall surely die, and he shall be stoned with stones. If you marry one of these foreign women, whether it be a white woman, whether it be an Asian woman, whether it be whatever, if they're not of the nation of Israel, then they are foreign. Period. Verse 10. And to this law there is no limit of days. Again, and to this law there is no limit of days, and no remission nor any atonement. But the man who has defiled his daughter shall be rooted out in the midst of all Israel. How did he defile her? By giving her over to a Gentile for marriage. Because he has given of his seed to Molech, and wrought impiously so as to defile it. See, so when you give your daughter or your son over to marriage to a foreign person, you know, they serve foreign gods. You might as well you have turned them over to a foreign god. That's what it is. Verse 11. And do thou, Moses, command the children of Israel, and exhort them not to give their daughters to the Gentiles, and not to take for their sons any of the daughters of the Gentiles. For this is abominable before the Lord. It's an abomination. It's an abomination. So that's what you brothers need to be understanding, you one who are out here married to these women. You brothers who are out here got your, married to these foreign women. You know that she's foreign. You know she's foreign. Verse 12. For this reason I have written for thee in the words of the law all the deeds of the Shechemites, which they wrought against Dinah, and how the sons of Jacob spake, saying, we shall not give our daughter to a man who is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. Verse 13. And it is a reproach to Israel, to those who give, and to those who take the daughters of the Gentiles, for this is unclean and abominable to Israel. Let me say that again. For this is unclean and abominable to Israel. It's an abomination to be married or to lay down with any of these people. Foreign people. Other than, look, brothers, like this here. If you were laying down with, married to, whatever, to anybody other than a black sister, then hey, you know what the scripture says. Flat out. And I'm going to keep on reading verse 14. And Israel will not be free from this uncleanness if it has a wife of the daughters of the Gentiles, or has given any of its daughters to a man who is of any of the Gentiles. Verse 15. For there will be a plague upon plague, and curse upon curse, and every judgment and plague and curse will come upon him if he do this thing, or hide his eyes from those who commit uncleanness, or those who defile the sanctuary of the Lord, or those who profane his holy name. You profane his holy name by sitting up there giving yourselves to these foreign people, knowing that you want to be set apart. Knowing that. We got no business doing it. We cannot allow the way this world is going, this pushing that they got out here going on. They're pushing this. We can't allow that to affect us. I don't need to read no more out of that. Y'all get the point. You defile yourself. It's an abomination. Flat out. That is why that's further reason why we should not do that. Because it's you defile yourself. You have become defiled. It's uncleanliness. Okay, now. Now I'm gonna rough up some feathers here. I gotta do this. We're gonna turn over here. And we're gonna look at the book of Malachi. This is something that needs to be said. Chapter 2 of Malachi. About some of you brothers. Especially some of you brothers in these camps. You brothers in these camps. Especially you. You all need to know this. Malachi chapter number 2. And notice what it says here at verse number 8. It says, but ye are departed out of the way. Ye have caused many to stumble at the law. Ye have corrupted the covenant of Levi, says Yahweh of hosts. Verse 9. Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all people, according as ye have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law. Now, what do it mean when it say being partial? What do you mean when it say being partial? Being partial basically means this. Oh, well, you're going to keep some of the laws. You're going to keep all the law, but when it comes down to satisfying your own desire, well, then, you gotta negotiate there. You can't, basically like this here. When it comes down to, you follow all the laws, but when it comes down to staying away from these foreign women, you gotta rethink that. You gotta negotiate there. That's what it means to be partial. That's what it means. And so this is what it says. Also it says, you have stumbled many because of your actions and because of your teachings in those camps. When you're teaching the camps to accept a foreign person as a Hebrew, knowing good and well they're not, you're pushing this idea. You're pushing this idea that this particular person is a Hebrew because you got your eyes on those women, and you are causing some of the other brothers and some of the sisters to stumble. Because if you say that you're the one teaching, if you say that these people are God's people, and you marry one of these people, then this sister over here gonna say, "Oh, okay," and she's listening. She's gonna go out there and marry one of these foreign men, all up in your camp, and you're gonna allow it. Now you have stumbled her, caused her to commit a defilement of her flesh, an abomination. That is what you have done. Because of your teaching and because of the desires of your flesh, you are pushing the same agenda out here in that world because you desire something that don't belong to you. Now, let's keep on going here. We're going to move on down to verse number 11. It says, Judah has dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem. For Judah has profaned the holiness of Yahweh, which he loved, and has married the daughter of a strange woman, or a strange heir, or a strange god. You marry a strange woman, you come connected with her and her god, her false god. Verse 12. Now, let's go down to verse 13. And this have ye done, again covering the altar of Yahweh, with tears, with weeping, and with crying out, insomuch that he regardeth not the offering anymore, or receiveth it with goodwill at your hand. Now, what is that talking about? I'll tell you what it's talking about. Two things here. first and foremost, it could be you yourself. You're praying to the Most High. You're giving Him all the glory and the praise with your hands up high and all this here. You're preaching, you're teaching, and all that. But for some reason or another, the Most High He's tired of you. He don't want to hear all that no more. He's tired of your offerings, all. He's sick of it. He's tired of it. Why? And it goes on, it tells you why. Verse 14. Yet ye say, wherefore? You're asking, why? What do you mean? And then it goes on and says, because Yahweh has been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously. Yet is she thy companion and the wife of thy covenant? See, how have some of you brothers have dealt treacherously with your wives? Some of the sisters in the faith. How have you dealt treacherously? There have been reports that some brothers have actually dismissed their wife, their Hebrew wife, and went out and got a foreign woman and started a family with this foreign woman and left that wife that they had. Some of them even been left with children. Left. Dealt treacherously. And also, when it mentions covering on verse 13, covering the altar of Yahweh with tears, with weeping, and with crying, it could be that the wife that you have dealt treacherously with, now she's crying out to the Most High about her situation. How you done left her. And now he's looking at you like, I don't want to hear anything from you. I don't want to accept your burnt offerings or whatever. Look at what you've done. You have dealt treacherously with your wife. See, so, and that's another thing. Some of you brothers, you out here, you have this carnal-minded, tyrannical, bullyish type of attitude where you treat your wife like she's beneath you and you're mistreating her. Some of you brothers are like tyrants. You got your wife, you feel like, oh, she gotta keep. Okay. Just to recap, I was reading Malachi chapter 2 and verse verse 11 through 15, dealing with how you brothers have been dealing treacherously with your wives. How? Like I mentioned in another video, some of you have actually dismissed your wife, your Hebrew wife, and got with a foreign woman and raising a family with this foreign woman. Some have even left their wives with children or left her pregnant. I know a few sisters who are dealing with that situation right now. And these brothers, let me just say this here. Some of you, a lot of you brothers, a lot of y'all act the same way you act before you even found out the truth. A lot of you ain't nothing but a bunch of hobo Hebrew niggas out there slinging your penis. That's all you're doing. You're still doing the same thing you've been doing before you even found out the truth. You're doing the same thing. Nothing's different. You're doing the same thing. You're leaving these sisters with children. A lot of you are leaving them to be with a foreign woman, dealing treacherously with your wife, the wife of your covenant, the one you have made promises to, and you have broken promises. That's one of the reasons why our relationships are in jeopardy, because a lot of you brothers are out here hurting these sisters. In the truth, and even out there in that world, the ones who don't even know who they are, the ones who are still asleep, they're doing the same thing some of you brothers are doing. Same thing. You know, women are hurting everywhere. The trust ain't there. They're scared. They prefer to be single, and and some of them they're just scared. The trust is gone, the love ain't there no more. See, and so at the same time, what we're doing, because of this, we're aiding the agenda to wipe us out. We're helping. We're helping. And that's the problem. That's the problem. We're helping them. We're helping the agenda. White folk ain't got to do nothing but sit back and watch us do what we're doing because, hey, we're doing it for them. And then they're pushing this homosexuality and they're pushing this interracial thing. They're pushing it harder. For some strange reason, they're pushing it harder. They're pushing it. You never see them pushing the black man and the black woman being together. Even on a TV commercial, you very seldom see that. Remember that Macy's Christmas advertisement? You didn't see no black woman with no black man. You saw her by herself, with her kids, or you saw her with a white man, or you saw a black man with a white man. Homosexual. That's what they're pushing. Do you see the agenda? Man, it's sad, man. It's just so sad. You know, that's what it means. That's what it means when it says being partial. Partial in your teachings. Malachi chapter 2 and verse 8. Let me read that again. Now, verse 9 says, therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all the people according as ye have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law. Some of you brothers have been partial, especially the ones in these camps. You teach follow all the commandments. You do this, you do that. But when it comes down to you satisfying your desire to be with one of these foreign women, now you start making excuses. Now you start making excuses now. And then you start teaching that's why we keep seeing these pictures all out there on YouTube and on Facebook. These people, they are obviously not Hebrews. You know, they're sitting there. We know what our people look like. We know what they look like. But I keep seeing these people, they look like they're some kind of Mexican with this long, stringy hair and these no lips and come on, you know this, come on now, they're not black. They're not no Negro. You know, I hate to even say it like that, but you know what I'm talking about. We know who our people are. But you've been pushing this crap because these brothers want these women. And as a result, you're misleading these sisters and other brothers. You got these foreign men up in these camps. Got them duped into thinking that they're Israel and they're not. Now you done duped the sister. Now this sister done went up there and married this man. You have made yourselves guilty. You have handed over one of the daughters of Israel to somebody of the Gentile nations. You have committed an abomination. You have defiled that camp. You defiled Yahweh's people. You have defiled that sister with your teaching. With your teaching. Now I'm going to read this other scripture here. Let's take a look at Ezra chapter 10. Ezra chapter 10. I'm going to read this. Ezra chapter 10, because there's something else I want to bring down here. Something else I want to bring down here. In this particular scripture, this is when the nation of Israel, when our ancestors was coming out of Babylon. It was going back to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple. But on their journey back, when they got over there, it was made known, or it came to the realization that a lot of the brothers, while they were in captivity, like we are right now, they had picked up some foreign wives, even had children with them. But guess what they had to do? Ezra, chapter number 10. I'm going to read like 4 or 5 scriptures here. Look at chapter 10 and verse 2. 2 and 3. Look at what it says here. And how you pronounce it? Shechaniah, the son of Jehiel, one of the sons of Elam, answered and said unto Ezra, we have trespassed against our Elohim, and have taken strange wives of the people of the land. Yet now there is hope in Israel concerning this thing. Verse 3. Now therefore let us make a covenant with our Elohim to put away all the wives. To put away all the wives and such as are born of them, according to the counsel of Yahweh, and of those that tremble at the commandment of our Elohim, and let it be done according to the law. Did you notice what happened there? They not only had to put away those foreign wives when they was going back to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple, when they was coming out of captivity, going back, they had to dismiss those foreign wives. But guess what else? Who else they had to dismiss? They had to dismiss the children too. The children that they had with those foreign wives, they had to dismiss them too. They sure did. That's what the scripture says. And there's something else I want to bring out about that. Look over here at verse 10. Chapter 10 and verse 10. Ezra. It says, and Ezra the priest stood up and said unto them, ye have transgressed and have taken strange wives to increase the trespass of Israel. And this is what our brothers are doing. When you go out here, you get with these foreign women. If you pay attention to this pushing out here in this world, and go out there and get yourself one of these foreign women, because of the fact that maybe you can't find a sister, because our relationships are in detriment right now. And you go out there, you get tempted by means of this pushing that they got going on out here. And you go out there and get one of the foreign wives. Now you have caused a defilement of your flesh. And the same thing goes for you sisters. Same thing. But it's one thing I want to bring out in this scripture that some of you brothers may not like. You know how a lot of you brothers always talk about it is by means of which I say what determines a person whether they're a Hebrew or not is based upon who their father is. Ain't that what y'all always say? Whoever, if their father's a Hebrew, then the child is a Hebrew also. This is the teaching. But this ain't what the scripture just says here. What did it say over here in verse 3? Chapter 10 and verse 3 of Ezra. They had to dismiss even the children they had with those foreign women. So those children that they had, even though their fathers were Hebrews, those children was not accepted. They had to be dismissed too. and you know what the scripture says. Yahweh does not change. Ever. He does not change. So that teaching that y'all be teaching about, well, we could have, you're on your Hebrew, it determines, is it based upon who your father is, whatever. No. That's an excuse to go out there and have children with whoever you want to have children with. This scripture right here says, no. Those mixed children gonna have to be dismissed too. Yup, they got to go too. Now I'm gonna tell you something. This tells me one thing. What determines whether if you're a Hebrew or not? It has a lot to do with your father and your mother. Yeah, because come on now. Come on. What else can you get from this scripture? What else can you get from it? The scripture plainly says that they had to get rid of the wives and the children. Even though their father, the children's father, was a Hebrew. But they had to dismiss those children too.